Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The champagne glass shattered against the marble wall, sending a spray of crystal and expensive vintage brute raining down like jagged tears, missing my cheek by a fraction of an inch. Get out. The voice was low, vibrating with a lethal mixture of exhaustion and disdain. If you can't even handle a simple press blockade, you are useless to me. I didn't flinch. I couldn't. Not when the man standing before me, Cashin Ryu, the nation's ice prince, the box office deity, and the most terrifying man in the Korean entertainment industry, looked ready to burn the world down. He stood silhouetted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, the sole skyline bleeding neon into the dark room. He was perfection carved from malice, raven hair falling over eyes sharp enough to cut glass, a silk shirt unbuttoned to reveal the pale expanse of his chest, and a posture that screamed dominance. But as I bent down to pick up the shards of glass, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, the air above his head shimmered. The headache that had plagued me since the lighting rig accident on set yesterday spiked, a blinding white-hot needle behind my eyes. And then, the glitch happened. A translucent blue box, like a chat window from a live stream, materialized in the air above Cashin's head. Text began to scroll, fast and frantic, glowing in high-definition serif font. User_sir, he didn't flinch. Why didn't he flinch? Did I scare him? Oh God, I scared him. Look at his hands, they're shaking. I want to hold them. I want to kiss every finger. Stop yelling, you moron. Tell him he looks beautiful in that cheap suit. I froze, a shard of glass slicing into my thumb. I stared at the text, then at Cashin's face. His expression was a mask of icy indifference, his lips pressed into a thin, cruel line. Did I stutter, Ren? Cashin snapped, stepping closer, his shadow engulfing me. Leave. The box above him flashed red. User_sir, please don't go. If you leave, I'll spend the next 3 hours staring at the door smelling your jacket. Just stay. Yell back at me. Anything. I blinked, the blood from my thumb dripping onto the pristine white rug. The contrast between the venom spilling from his lips and the pathetic, desperate yearning scrolling above his head was enough to induce vertigo. I wasn't hallucinating. This wasn't a concussion dream. Somehow, some cosmic wire had crossed inside my brain, and I was seeing the raw, unedited feed of Cashin Ryu's soul. And apparently, the devil wore Prada, but his inner monologue wore its heart on a sleeve I had been hired to steam clean. My name is Run. I am, or I was, a failed screenwriter turned glorified babysitter. 2 months ago, I was hired by Stardust Agency to be the personal assistant to their crown jewel, Cashin Ryu. The job description was simple: manage the schedule, block the paparazzi, and endure the abuse. Cashin was notorious for firing assistants. He was a tyrant, a perfectionist, a man who allegedly had no heart. For 8 weeks, I had hated him. I hated the way he looked through people. I hated his demands for iced Americanos at 3 a.m. I hated the way he made me feel small. But now I was staring at a man who was practically vibrating with anxiety while projecting an aura of absolute calm. I'm bleeding, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. I held up my thumb. Cashin's eyes snapped to the wound. For a second, his mask slipped. His pupils dilated. He took a jerky step forward, hand half raised before he snatched it back, shoving it into his pocket. Clumsy, he sneered. Don't bleed on the carpet. It's Persian. User_sr, blood. He's hurt. I did that. I'm a monster. Lick it. No, don't lick it. That's weird. Get the first aid kit. Where's the kit? Bathroom. No, kitchen. Move legs. Why am I paralyzed? I'll clean it up, I said softly, testing the waters. I took a step toward him. Cashin recoiled as if I were radioactive. Don't come closer. You smell like public transit and rain. User_cr, he smells like vanilla and old books. It's intoxicating. I want to bury my face in his neck and never breathe fresh air again. Why is he so close? My heart is doing that arrhythmia thing again. Is my face red? Act cool. Be the prince. The cognitive dissonance was giving me a migraine. I realized then that Cashin wasn't just an asshole. He was a socially crippled introvert who had constructed a fortress of hostility to keep the world, and specifically me, at bay. "I'll go bandage this in the kitchen," I said, walking past him. As my shoulder brushed his arm, the text above him exploded into a flurry of emojis, crying faces, hearts, and a string of exclamation marks. User_sar, touch. He touched me. System overload. Abort. Abort. I suppressed a smile. This changed everything. The following weeks were a study in psychological warfare. Armed with the knowledge of Cashin's secret adoration, the power dynamic shifted. I was no longer the victim. I was the observer. We were on set for his new period drama, The Emperor's Shadow. Cashin was dressed in heavy, intricate hanbok, black silk embroidered with silver dragons. He looked regal, untouchable. He was currently berating the director for a lighting error. "The shadow falls incorrectly across the throne," Cashin stated, his voice ringing across the silent soundstage. "It implies weakness. My character is not weak. Fix it, or I walk." The crew looked terrified. The director, a veteran named Director Park, looked ready to stroke out. I walked up to Cashin with a bottle of water. "Cashin," I said, keeping my tone professional. "You're dehydrated. Drink." He turned his glare on me. "I didn't ask for water." User_CR. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My throat feels like sandpaper. I've been yelling for 20 minutes because I'm nervous about the kissing scene later. Does Ren know about the kissing scene? Does he care? Is he jealous? Please be jealous. Drink it," I ordered, pushing the bottle into his chest. He scoffed, snatching the bottle. Insolent. Later that afternoon came the scene in question. Cashin was to kiss the female lead, a rising idol named Yuna. She was beautiful, petite, and clearly infatuated with him. I stood in the wings, arms crossed. As the cameras rolled, Cashin leaned in. He cupped Yuna's face. It was picture perfect. A masterclass in acting. Above his head, the text was scrolling in slow, miserable bold letters. User_CR, "It's just meat. Pressing meat against meat. I feel nothing. I wish this was Ren. I wish Ren was wearing this dress. No, I wish Ren was wearing nothing. God, I'm depraved. Don't look at the monitor, Ren. Don't look. Cut," the director yelled. Perfect. That was passion. Cashin pulled away instantly, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. He marched straight toward me, his eyes dark. "Towel," he demanded. I handed him a fresh towel. "Good take." "It was adequate," he muttered, burying his face in the cloth. User_sir, did he see my hand shaking? I almost dropped her. "I just want to go home and have Ren make me ramyun. Why can't I just tell him? Why am I such a coward?" "Cashin," I said, lowering my voice so the surrounding stylists wouldn't hear. "Why do you push everyone away?" He froze. He lowered the towel, revealing eyes that were suddenly vulnerable, stripped of the actor's gloss. "Because," he whispered, "people inevitably want things I cannot give. They want the image. They don't want the reality." User_sar, because if you knew how broken I am, how obsessively I've loved you since you wrote that indie play 3 years ago that nobody watched but me, you'd run away screaming. My breath hitched. He knew? He knew about the glass cage? My failed play? The one I poured my soul into, only to have it close after 3 nights? "You saw my play?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Cashin's face went rigid. The text above him vanished, replaced by a single, blinking warning. Critical error. Secret compromised. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said coldly, turning on his heel. "Get the car ready. We're leaving." The climax of our unspoken dance arrived during the heavy monsoon season. We were returning from a location shoot in the mountains when the storm hit. The roads were slick, treacherous ribbons of asphalt winding through the dark forest. Our driver, a new hire named Mr. Kim, was nervous. I could see his knuckles white on the wheel. Cashin was in the back seat with me, ostensibly reading a script, but the text above him was a stream of consciousness about the curve of my neck. Then, the world spun. A truck swerved into our lane. Mr. Kim yanked the wheel. The luxury SUV hydroplaned, spinning out of control before slamming into the guardrail. The metal groaned, glass shattered, and we tilted dangerously over the edge of a ravine. Silence followed the crash, broken only by the hiss of rain and the steam rising from the engine. "Run." Cashin's voice was ragged. I groaned, clutching my head. I'm okay. "Don't move," Cashin commanded. The car shifted with a terrifying creak. We were balancing on the precipice. I looked over at him. A cut on his forehead was bleeding, staining his white collar crimson. He wasn't looking at himself. He was staring at me, his eyes wide with terror. User_CR, no. No, no, no. Take me instead. Don't take him. If he dies, I die. I never told him. I never told him. Cashin, your door is jammed against the rail, I said, analyzing the situation. My side is clear. We have to climb out my way. The weight shift will send the car over, Cashin said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Logic had taken over. If you move, the car drops. If I move, I can counterbalance it long enough for you to get out. And what happens to you? I demanded. He looked at me. For the first time, he smiled. It wasn't the smirk of the Ice Prince. It was a sad, gentle smile that broke my heart. I have a good PR team. They'll spin my death into a legend. User_CR, I love you. I love you, Rinjiwoo. I love your stubbornness, your bad coffee, your brilliant writing. Save yourself. Please, just live. No, I snarled. The anger flared hot and bright. I am not letting you die a martyr, you dramatic ass. Run, go, he shouted, unbuckling his belt and leaning hard against the opposite door to pin the car down. Not without you. I scrambled across the center console. The car groaned, tilting downward. I grabbed his lapels, ignoring the blood, ignoring the rain pounding on the roof. Why do you care? He screamed, tears mixing with the blood on his face. I'm a monster. I treat you like trash. I know you watched my play. I yelled back, shaking him. I know you're User_CR. I know you're terrified of thunder, and you like your coffee sweet, and you think I look good in blue. Cashin froze. The text above his head stopped scrolling. It just hung there, suspended in the static of the moment. User_CR, he sees me? Yes, I see you. I whispered, pulling him toward me. I see all of it. And if you think I'm going to let my biggest fan die in a ditch, you're insane. The car gave a sickening lurch. We had seconds. On 3, I said, gripping his hand. We jump. Together. Cashin looked at our joined hands. The fear in his eyes melted into resolve. He nodded. 1, 2, 3. We scrambled out of the passenger door, tumbling into the mud and rain just as the SUV groaned one last time and slid backward, plummeting into the darkness of the ravine below. The crash echoed like thunder, swallowed by the storm. We lay in the mud, gasping for air, the rain soaking us to the bone. I was shivering, adrenaline crashing hard. Cashin crawled over to me. He hovered above me, shielding my face from the rain with his body. He looked wild, ruined, and breathtaking. You see me? He asked, his voice barely audible over the storm. The blue box flickered above him, dim now, fading. User_CR, he knows. He knows, and he didn't run. He stayed. I see you. I confirmed, reaching up to wipe a smear of mud from his cheek. And for the record, I think you look good in that cheap suit, too. Cashin let out a choked laugh that sounded like a sob. He leaned down, his forehead resting against mine. I was going to fire you tomorrow, he murmured. To save you from me. I quit, I said. He pulled back, panic flashing in his eyes. I quit being your assistant, I clarified, sliding my hand to the back of his neck, pulling him down until our lips were a breath apart. I think I'm ready for a promotion. Maybe. Partner. The text above his head flared one last time, bright as a supernova. User_CR, partner. Boyfriend. Husband. Soulmate. Yes. 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 Then, Cashin closed the gap, and his lips crashed against mine. It wasn't a screen kiss. It wasn't perfect. It was desperate, messy, tasting of rain and iron and raw need. It was the taste of a man who had been starving for years finally taking his first bite. As we kissed in the mud, surrounded by the wreckage of his image, the blue box above his head finally flickered and vanished. He didn't need the subtitles anymore. His actions were finally speaking louder than his thoughts. And that is how the humble scriptwriter rewrote the ending for the untouchable star. If you enjoyed seeing the Ice Prince melt into a puddle of desperate longing, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you read the thoughts of the person you love, even if it meant knowing their darkest secrets? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt. Masterpiece. Best quality. High res. 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 men, BL, Yaoi, Man 1. Cashin, wet raven hair, sharp jawline, wearing torn muddy silk shirt, desperate expression, cradling Man 2's face, glowing blue text interface floating above head with heart symbols. Man 2. Run, lying on muddy ground, rain-soaked, looking up with intense gaze, hand on Man 1's neck. Background is dark rainy forest night, car wreckage smoke in distance, cinematic. Dramatic lighting, rain droplets, emotional atmosphere, intricate details, 8K.